So may
Neha.
I-
Sit down.
Thank you, sir.
So you are Neha Banerjee.
Yes, sir.
Good, very good. So you have graduated from IIT Kharagpur.
Yes, sir.
Good. And I have been really very curious to know what do you mean by reflective writing?
Sir, reflective writing is one of my passion. It is when there is any event which impacts me very deeply in my life, or when I take any life-changing decision, then I make it a point to note it down in my diary or in my copy so that I can come back to it later on and I can judge myself that how rationally I have taken the decisions and how I felt at that time and how I feel today. So sometimes I also connect it with philosophical thoughts, and I just like to write it sometime. Sometimes I make my friends to read it, and I collect their viewpoints about it.
That is very good. You know, what happens when you are doing the reflective writing, then you are applying basically the theoretical concepts which are resting somewhere in your
Yes.
brain
Yes, sir.
in the practical situation.
Yes, sir.
So I want to ask here, so when you are saying that you love traveling under budget constraints,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
being a lady,
Yes, sir.
you know, so how do you cope up with all these circumstances? Because it becomes slightly difficult.
Yes, sir. It is difficult in the sense that when a lady travels alone under budget constraints, always security and safety has to be the first concern. But sir, I think we can do a lot of smart planning. For example, if I'm traveling during the night time, if I book a train during the night time, and then if I book a hotel during the morning time, then I can definitely save my hotel expenditure during the night. So that is one of the smart ways. And so secondly, I think that like I may sound a bit conservative in this case, but when we are going to some place, there are some minute social realities of that place, sir. And the way we dress up, the way we present ourselves to the local people also, I think we have to take care of that. And if I take care of that and if I keep the emergency numbers ready somehow, then I think, sir, that fortunately speaking, I haven't faced any hurdles as of now regarding.
Good, great. Okay. Now, just tell me, this coronavirus you might have heard, everyone has heard about it, everyone has read about it. Why do we call it coronavirus?
So, because under a microscope, when we judge how the virus looks like, I think the contours point to the corona of the sun. That is why it is called coronavirus, due to the physical shape of the virus under
Any
a
other reason?
microscope. Um,
Which has been declared by WHO?
why is it called corona? Is it?
And is it for the first time that coronavirus has come, or
It's a novel coronavirus, N coronavirus.
and corona?
N corona.
And before that,
Before that, it has some similarity with SARS, that is severe acute respiratory
that
syndrome.
was also coronavirus.
That was also no. That was not coronavirus.
That was coronavirus.
I mean a different strain of it.
Different strain. Yes, you are
of
very
it.
good. Now, what I was asking you, that WHO has declared that this is an international emergency,
Yes.
medical emergency.
Yes, sir.
When do they declare it as medical emergency?
So, the declaration comes when there is a potential to affect people on a large scale. I think there must be some number regarding
No.
to
It is. Just
When
think
it
of
is-
it. Think of it further.
when it is a contagious disease
Contagious,
It,
contagious, and then from
and-
contagious, it can be contagious from X to Y.
from animals to humans, like it's a zoonotic
That
disease.
then
in
it is
that
not
case.
declared as. I can tell you, when it is animal to human, it is not declared as an international medical emergency.
Okay, sir.
So when do we declare it?
When it can spread from human to human,
Human to human.
especially on traveling. on
No,
international-
whenever we have the incidences in different countries where human to human transmission is taking place,
Yes.
then only international medical emergency is declared.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Now, in the same vein, I just want to understand that suppose you are appointed as collector.
Okay, sir.
One of my colleague, she was collector in West Bengal, Tuk Tuk Ghosh.
Okay, my pet name is also Tuk Tuk. incidentally.
Okay, Tuk Tuk. It means what does it mean?
My father said that because I blink my eyes, and that's why it
So
was
Tuk Tuk means is bright. Tuk Tuk Lal means bright red.
Right.
Okay. Now I just want to ask you, because it is her experience. So I just want to have what will you do in that situation
As a collector, sir.
as a collector. Now you have gone to a particular village. There you go and you want to inspect a PDS shop. Right? There you see that there are two ladies, old ladies, who are cribbing and fighting with the dealer that you have not given us our ration. You have not given us wheat, you have not given us sugar. Now you reach there. So there a lot of crowd is already accumulated. Now you see this situation. Now in this particular situation, you talk to that dealer, "Hey, why have you not given them their ration?" He says, "No, I have given. See this POS machine? This POS machine is showing the record that was his quota and this much has been already given to him, given to these ladies." So he shows it. It's given to ladies. But the point is the ladies are still saying, no, 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 he has not given us. Now what will you do?
So I think my first response would be to find out that whether the lady has actually got the ration or not.
How will you
We
do
cannot
it?
take it on her face value.
No, how will you do it?
So if she has got a ration, then there must be some physical manifestation of that. There must be, there must be some. If there is a CCTV camera in that shop,
Generally in the villages, in PDS shops, there are no CCTV cameras.
then I can rely on human witnesses, whether anybody has seen her carrying maybe the basta of PDS.
Some more solutions, just think of more. Take your time and then tell.
Yes, sir. Sir, I believe that the POS machine will have some records, whether there is a
So
fingerprint on
POS
that.
machine is showing that those two ladies have got the ration.
That means that she must have entered her fingerprint or some kind of transaction has been done on her part. Then if she still claims that the ration has not been given, that means there can be two possibilities. One is that she is blatantly lying on this. Other possibility is that there must be some technical glitches on the POS machine, that she has registered her case, but it has been faultily registered. So my solution would be, first of all, there is a big crowd standing there. So first solution
They are
would be
observing you, because they want to see that what this collector is doing. You are recently joined in the district, and they want to see you. That how do you ultimately resolve this situation?
Yes, sir. So my first immediate reaction will be to arrange for the law and order situation of that area, because somehow if this turns into a pandemonium, if the crowd gets absolutely excited about this, so firstly would be to contact with the SP of that district and the law and order situation. That way I can bring the situation under control, at least for the immediate case. And the second case would be to take this matter on a procedural level, and if required, then we have to file a case or take up the matter on a procedural basis, that whether she has received it or not. Because if we succumb to these whims, that she may be in a very vulnerable situation, and if she's in a vulnerable situation, then the matter is different. If she's in an emergency situation, but if that is not the case, then we have to go by the procedures. Whether there is any human witness or any digital witness or any other kind of physical witness available which proves that she has got the ration.
Okay.
Her
We are
house
helping
search.
Nepal a lot. For so many years, we are constructing dams, we are constructing roads, and everything is being done for Nepal. But even then, Nepal is becoming closer and closer to China. And they are giving a lot of access to China for different construction activities and direct access by road to Nepal.
By
And that will be
trains
very
also.
dangerous for us. So why it is happening? Why are they doing it? Why Nepal is accepting all these things from China?
Sir, I think Nepal is a landlocked country which has been sandwiched between the two big superpowers. And recently we find out that China has been making inroads via the railway networks through Nepal. Sir, I think that this situation can be analyzed at two levels. If we take the lens up to Nepal, how Nepal judges the situation based on their sovereignty and their self-interest, then sir, we can probably remember the incident which happened in 2015, that is the Great Economic Blockade. We technically, the Indian government imposed a blockade on Nepal. So that was a scar which Nepal still suffers. And so then Nepal cannot perennially dependent on a nation, or maybe like Nepal carries out most of its trade through the Kolkata port, which itself even domestically it cannot serve a lot of traffic even now. So Nepal has to maintain its own sovereignty, and then if it gets some, like even when we talk of the dehyphenation policy, and when we kind of try to play two nations on each other's sides, then why can't Nepal do that? So we have to take up the matter on that level. We cannot take it up in this issue that Nepal has not been on our side and it is giving access to China. Rather, we must try to improve our infrastructure projects, the Arun hydropower projects that have been declared. So we can fast track that so that can be completed at the earliest possible level. And I think we have to earn the confidence by the amount of project completion that we do. And so that like this issue is not taken up on this level that Nepal is not supporting us, rather than we are taking proactive steps to gain the confidence of Nepal.
Okay. A small thing. We are saying that there is economic slowdown in our country, and this has a relationship between international, global slowdown.
Yes.
But on the other hand, Bangladesh is doing so well.
Yes, sir.
Why?
So I believe that even like after the appointment of Sheikh Hasina, we find that Bangladesh also went into a lot of FDIs and lot of tax rate cuts, and their economy is also booming that way because they also have a 7 to 8% growth rate. But sir, if we see that why international relations have affected our area of concern, because we have a big trade volume going on with the US, and the US is following protectionist policies. And if we look into our remittance sector, India is the largest recipient of remittance as per reports. Then, and if US suddenly starts following this protectionist and the issue over H-1B visa, then that will affect our areas on the external front. That will affect our balance of payment on these.
But why hasn't it affected Bangladesh?
Sir, mainly because the IT, the information technology industry is more developed in India than in Bangladesh, and I think that is more deeply connected with the international markets, with the international economy than any other.
But we are now going in for protectionism. Day before yesterday in the budget, we have raised custom duty on so many items.
Yes,
so we are going back on economic reforms. So how do you justify that?
Sir, I believe that if we look into the labor markets in Bangladesh, there is a better labor market in Bangladesh. Their wage policies are more competitive than ours. We have been able to, like we talk of the 4 labor code bills, but still now our floor minimum, like that has not been implemented on a large scale in a proper level. Whereas Bangladesh has got a more competitive wage policy. And I think that we somehow, as the economic survey also mentioned, we somehow may be falling into this middle income trap. And Bangladesh is still on the way, on its road, it's on its ladder to probably reach on that stage. And probably we can compare the situation of Bangladesh now as we did in the early hours of this decade, let's say 2013 to 2014, when the growth was on a high level. Probably Bangladesh has yet to see the future that we are in.
Okay. Okay, please.
See, you mentioned about the conservative, outlook in the context of present protest about the CEA. What 3 things you can narrate which are new to this area in Indian context when it comes to protesting against government legislation? And second, since you have the idea of Jadavpur University, which is also recently in news, how these 2 things you will narrate? I mean, what is something which has never happened in India, which is happening for the first time, and what you would like to suggest, particularly in the context of women empowerment? What you will advise the women who are coming in large numbers to protest?
So if we look into the present scenario of what is happening at Shahi Bagh and even what is happening in my city, Kolkata. So I believe that this is a very novel kind of an event, because before this we haven't found protests where people are reciting the preamble of India in front of August people in front of national television. And that is a very big achievement, because we find that democracy is not only limited to holding elections and selecting our representatives, but it is also a very passionate expression of the way we feel for our country, of the values secularism, of the values religiosity, of the values like nationalism. Like these are very abstract phenomenon. And so when it's a very, like I would say that it is a very novel and a very proud moment for India, because these abstract concepts have got ingrained into the hearts of the common citizens. So that is a very...
Then why government is scared of all these things?
Sir, I think the primary concern of government is the law and order situation in this case, because whenever there is any passionate expression of such feelings, then situations can easily go out of control.
But they have not, by and large, not involved in arson or, you see, they have
Violence
not
or-
created violence and, I mean,
Yes, they have not created by and large, but in some of the universities like in JNU and even in Jadavpur University also, we find that situations sometimes go out of control and people kind of become too imbalanced and too passionate about their protests. So the challenge of the government in this side is the government must allow some headroom for these expressions to take place. But also government has to be, because law enforcement is also a very important part of government's duty. And if government misses that, then I think that government ultimately has to be responsible for whatever is going on in this case. And second thing that I would say is that, sir, I think that this issue, if like you asked whether the government is scared of it or not, I think the very fact that this issue has been passed through the parliament, it has passed the eyes of parliamentary scrutiny, that proves that government must not be scared anymore of this. And because it has built up its own logic that why it has come up with this, and the government is, I think, it's kind of supporting that rationality with valor. But yes, it is also a thing that various sections of people have come out for this protests, especially the student movements that we see. And in the context of women are also protesting. We find a lot of women of Islam, like Muslim women, are also coming and protesting. When the Triple Talaq bill was announced, that time also we found it was a big victory for them. And again they are trying to assert their secularism, their nationality, as well as their religion. I think it's a proud moment for India, and the administration must be proud of it. But as we say, that administration is all about maintaining that fine balance. This case is also another exemplification of that. So.
is there any test of a law, even if it is passed by the legislature in any country for that matter, whether it's parliament or any, is there any test further that this should actually pass through this test?
Yes, sir. The judicial scrutiny is a very important concept.
No,
in this
even
case.
higher than that.
Even higher than judicial scrutiny.
I mean, a larger, a wider test of any law. What a
Article-
law should serve. I mean, what should be the test case of a law?
The constitution. It should be.
The constitution has remained within the country, but
Okay.
higher
Higher.
than that.
Yes, we have all, like this CA/NRC issue has already, it has been discussed in the UNGA.
Some thinkers have given lot of material for that. That it should pass actually certain tests. A law.
Any law should pass.
Yeah, a law.
Yes, sir. There must be some rationality.
Merely passing by a legislature is requirement of the law. It's a requirement of the constitution. But there are higher things. I mean, higher than the.
Means overstepping the boundary of India.
I mean, there is something called, I mean, you see, natural law. I mean, what
Yes.
are the natural laws?
Yes, sir. Natural law, we can, I can think of Hobbes, I can think of some philosophers.
Yeah,
who-
Mills. Yeah,
who's-
what they say actually? What do the thinkers say on this?
I mean, thinkers
About
like
the
James
law,
Mill
yeah.
and thinkers like
Yeah,
Hobbes who.
yeah, what they say?
Sir, regarding any law, like it varies from case to case. It must serve people's purpose. It must serve rationality.
You
There
see,
must
a
be
law
some-
is passed by the parliament.
So it
Parliament
must-
is elected by the masses, and still masses are opposing. So there is something missing somewhere. So what test is should pass? For whom actually the laws are made to whom?
to the people who democratically elect members of the parliament. So it must have a popular, like the popular will is there. That is already proved that it has passed through the scrutiny of the parliament.
Is there a difference between a majority approval in parliament and approval by people? Is there a difference? Or put it differently, I'm trying to interpret what he says. Whether majoritarianism that we are seeing in India, that it passed by parliament, that's the final thing. Or whatever Trump does in US because he is properly elected, it is fair thing. Is that the fair thing?
I mean, there are
Sir.
universal laws. law of
sir.
nature. I mean,
Thank you, sir. Sir.
whether it should pass through that test also or not. Any
Yes.
law for that matter.
Yes, sir. This question has been raised that even if it is passed by the parliament via due process, uh, ultimately it must serve the mandate of the people, and if people are protesting against it, then we really don't have any technical, like as our constitutional methods provide, we don't have any technical method by which we can take down the law except when the courts step in. But yes, if it is derogatory for a certain section of people, then they have a right to protest. They have a right to express their indignation with this law. And
Suppose I'm just forwarding his argument. Suppose majority in parliament approves that we can get rid of all the reservation of SC/ST. Is that fair? I mean, it may be even as per constitution. The constitution has put an expiry date on that one. So it is as per constitution, it is as per parliamentary process. Is that fair?
so, is that fair? That will depend on who is answering that.
No, but
I
that is
would
the
say
question
that,
he is asking you.
See, I am asking, you have elected parliament. Parliament is enacting law. And law is for your welfare. But you feel no, it is not in my interest. It is harming my interest. So what will be the final test?
the final test is, as you mentioned, so like we have a representative democratic system, but if we look into UK, they have systems like recall, they have systems like referendum and direct democracy. We don't really have that. Maybe our big population can be a constraint, but in this case, when we elect our representatives, lot of vested interests accumulate in one point, and then somehow they create a national agenda. So if we trace back whether a law has been passed in parliament, yes, that may or may not be synchronous with my personal wishes, my wishes at the societal level, my wishes at the community level. But if there are dissonances, then the constitution also provides us ways to vent out those, like Article 19, like Article 21. But yes, it is a deeper question that whether it passes the eyes of universal laws. As far as US Commission on International Regional Freedom is concerned, they have raised eyebrows on this issue, and we are yet to see how the international community reacts on this, and probably then we can understand whether a universal kind of an approval is there or
You
not.
are appointed district magistrate in Goa.
Goa.
Lot of foreign tourists are coming there on beaches, and there is demand from the locals for a dress code, that during these hours this will be the dress code, to avoid actually any unpleasant situation, any eve teasing, any sort of harassment of woman. As a district magistrate, you have to take a call. The government leaves that Neha, the district magistrate, will decide. What will be your decision?
Sir, on a procedural level, I cannot unilaterally take this decision based on like whims and
No,
fancies.
you have
of-
heard both. The locals
Yes.
are telling that we are actually advocating for the safety of women. We have nothing actually, we don't have any personal agenda. And the tourist side, they are telling that it's a free sort of tourist place. We are coming actually to enjoy. And this is what is we are doing. And no one can prescribe any dress code for us. The women oppose the no. These locals are very, very orthodox. We don't want actually this kind of restrictions. And government leaves it to Neha, the district magistrate. What will be your call?
Sir, I believe that if we take the case of Goa, it is known, it's internationally recognized as a very favorable tourist spot. And if we make these kind of restrictions for dress code on women, that sheds India in a very bad light. That kind of portrays our age-old conservatism, the kind of, international media can also reinterpret it that women in India are still not safe without proper clothes tag or not. So yes, frankly speaking, I would not support the international women or women from other countries to come and dress up as us if they are to be accepted as proper tourists in our case, because that would really show the amount of masculinity and patriarchy which is ingrained in our society. We cannot have this kind of portrayal in an international level.
So you will not go
Rather-
for the dress code.
Yes, sir. I will not go for the dress code immediately, but rather I would.
You still have in mind.
No, I still have in mind that the locals have raised this demand, so their words also should be heard at.
You can
also
appoint a committee, let them figure out.
appoint a committee, sir, in government. But then, sir, it would be a long-standing issue, and we don't. And by the time the committee gives its verdict, the matter can go out of control.
Don't you think that as district magistrate, you can say that it is, I mean, they are free. I mean, they are free. They are
Who-
coming from different nationalities, women,
Yes.
and they can wear whatever they want.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They can wear whatever they want. My responsibility would be rather to ensure that their safety, to ensure that proper, let us say, vehicle location trackers are there on the vehicles they travel, to ensure that some kind of societal maturity is there among the locals, so that they can accept this kind of cultural exchanges. To ensure
So
that
you will not be too conservative, what earlier you mentioned. Yeah.
Yes. So in that case, I mentioned in my respect, because I have that kind of social maturity to understand.
in respect of traveling alone.
Traveling alone, yes.
Traveling
sir.
alone.
Because
Yeah,
I know the
yeah.
realities of my country, but I cannot impose them on people from other countries that come and understand our
Now,
realities.
even for your countries also, you can't declare there the Indians will wear sari while
No.
the others, foreigners, will have full freedom. I mean, it has to be uniform for all.
Yes, it is not a binary case. It is like, depending on my understanding, on my maturity level, I can wear. But saying again, if I go to another extreme, that like I can wear anything I want, I can put up anything I want at any place, that is also not mature of me, especially in my role as an aspirant for the civil services, and in later on in my future if I have the opportunity of leading a district.
Now, what do you think is an ideal undergraduate degree for civil servant?
So I think
What kind of degree will provide a proper training for a civil servant at undergraduate level?
Sir, I believe that one of the main reasons why civil service attracts a bright pool of students is its diversity. And truly speaking, sir, I don't believe that there can be any one unilateral degree which can justify the various diverse roles that a civil service can fall into in his or her career throughout. So yes, the kind of diversity
No,
that
because you can pardon my view, but I will say training an MBBS or training an engineer and then put them in the civil servant is a waste of the seats of their previous degree, and it doesn't add much to the civil service that they provide subsequently.
Sir, I would beg to differ
For sake
on
of
this.
arguments.
Sir, I would beg to differ slightly on this, because if we track that how can a person become an engineer, or how has a person become an MBBS, then I think dedication to study well, commitment and
No,
discipline.
that's fine. That's not exclusive of engineers. What I'm saying is your training, your means anyone's training as an engineer or doctor, how does it help the collector's job or a secretary's job?
Sir, I think an engineer or a doctor has a basic rationality, a scientific temper with them. And that is very important for the civil services. That is very important when collectors and civil servants have to take fast decisions.
Fine. Since you are an engineer, I want to ask you, I'm sure you know what is innovation. But I am hearing the term interruptive innovation these days. What is that?
Sir,
Have you heard?
interruptive innovation, I think, sir, it refers to innovations and discoveries in the market which can disrupt the earlier ways how people and how societies live. For example, it has been said that artificial intelligence is going to eat up the jobs of many people, and so in some sense that qualifies artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data analytics.
You think that will do that? That will be interruptive in a marketplace?
So that depends on how we use it. That depends on how well we adapt to the scenarios. It cannot be a yes/no answer. But yes, like artificial intelligence has opened up avenues for good jobs.
Okay, then finally give me a yes/no answer for EVM. There are a lot of allegations that EVM are manipulatable.
Yes.
Is it, as an electric engineer?
No, sir. EVMs are not manipulative, because speaking
I mean,
on
they
the
are not
terms of-
manipulative, they are manipulatable.
Yes, sir, as an electrical engineer, I wouldn't believe that, because EVM in our nation, there are two separate units, control unit and a ballot unit. And if we look into the power system, these are standalone systems. So people say that we can inject some kind of malware and ransomware into the EVMs, but that is not technically possible because they are not connected to even any power system. Even the standard AC 50 Hz power systems, EVMs are not connected directly to that. And if there is any tampering with the ballot unit, then the control unit will also not function properly.
But the data from that unit will ultimately go to some processor, some system.
But sir,
And that system is not, is it dependable?
No, sir, the system is not, like the data is not put into any centralized system, and it is erased as soon as the counting is done. And there is also a concept of totalizer machines, which is not being used till now. But in Germany and Netherlands, I have heard that systems are connected to some kind of power system. So allegations there have some scientific basis, but allegations in India on this, I think it lacks rationality.
Every machine is independent and individual.
So your answer is that no, they are, I mean, they are dependable.
They are dependable,
yes.
They are dependable. Okay.
Can you tell me about the powers of the courts to punish for contempt?
Yes, sir. So, courts, high courts as well as Supreme Courts have power for punish. I think there are two such areas. One is civil power, another one is the criminal power. Civil power is civil power of contempt of court is when court has given a judgment, but you don't follow it properly. That is when civil powers of contempt comes into the picture.
And second?
Example?
Second, criminal contempt.
Second, in the criminal contempt case, when we kind of when there is a backlash and we kind of try to disrupt the functioning of the court in a proper manner, which has got certain law and order consequences, then we say that it's a criminal contempt.
If I write something on social media criticizing a particular judgment, can I be punished for contempt of court?
No, sir. You cannot, because that is a part of Article 19. Your right to freedom of speech and expression, and courts cannot bring it down. And specifically after the Shreya Singhal case which dealt with this.
But doesn't it mean people can write anything and create a disaffection towards the courts, and then ordinary people may feel that we should not go to courts, they are not helping any?
So this issue is again the kind of balance point between the freedom of speech and expression and public morality.
What are your thoughts about giving this power to punish for contempt to Election Commission of India? Would you agree for that?
Yes, sir. Because last year in the election season, we found one case when Election Commission said specifically that it lacks, it's like a toothless tiger, and it lacks powers for prosecution, though it can register a political party, but it cannot deregister a political party. So giving them the power of contempt of court, specifically in the age when we find fake news.
Suppose you are made the Chief Election Commissioner, and I am writing an article alleging that EVMs are hackable and this is completely biased and stooge of the BJP government. Will you punish me for the contempt or not?
No, sir, I won't punish you, because again, it is your fundamental right.
But I am creating this disaffection among the people about the electoral process, does it not?
Yes, sir, but then it is also my responsibility to counter your disaffection and convert this into affection by proper measures and taking proper grounds on that.
Okay, quickly some questions from your electric engineering. What is the difference between ham radio and satellite radio?
So satellite radios, so ham radios are amplitude modulated radios, which we used to find during the World War period, and satellite radios operate on frequency modulation.
What is white noise?
So white noise is one which has the same power spectral density across a wide range of frequency. So if we take the impulse response of that noise, it will be a spike. It will be just.
What are the metals or elements used in a high tension electric cable?
So metals should be inert in a high tension chemical.
No, which specific metal or element is used?
So for conducting purpose, copper is used, and aluminium can also be used, and for insulating purposes, there can be other metals, for like inert metals can be there, like titanium and.
What is switch gear?
Switch gear. So switch gear. So it's a kind of pulley arrangement, like it's a train kind of an arrangement where one mechanical input into one end will have some electrical or non-electrical output in other end.
Okay, that is all.
So we shall just call you after 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
सर इसको बुलाने की जरूरत नहीं
नहीं, ये मैं आपसे कह रहा हूँ, ये बच्चे का श्योर शॉर्ट सिलेक्शन है। अब इसके आने से पहले ही कह दिया था मैंने आपको, बिफोर शी एंटर्ड द रूम ना,
हाँ तो इसको
बिकॉज
बुला
आई न्यू दिस द रिकॉर्ड,
उसको बोलो जाओ अब
रिकॉर्ड नहीं, इसको एक बार कह तो देते हैं कि इसने अच्छा किया है, बट देयर इज नो कंपैरिजन। आई थिंक मैंने तो इतने इंटरव्यू लिए हैं, लेकिन ऐसी बच्ची बहुत कम मिलते हैं देखने। आई थिंक ये तो एक बच्ची ऐसी है, इसका फोटो अभी से खींच के रख लेना अच्छी तरह बेटा। हाँ नहीं, ये तो शी विल बी सेलेक्टेड, मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ आज। एवरीथिंग, शी हैज़ एवरीथिंग विच इज़ रिक्वायर्ड फॉर द इंटरव्यू।
गुड ब्रॉड
Very good.
वेरी गुड
बुला लीजिए उसको।
हाँ, एक बार बुलवा दीजिए बेटा। जस्ट टेल मी वन थिंग,
Yes, sir.
why do you want to enter into IAS? When you are such a good engineer, you have your CGPA is so good, why shouldn't you go in for
His salary also is very good.
and you do MS and PhD and then move forward?
Yes,
What is
sir.
there in IAS?
Sir, actually the primary motivation behind joining IAS was my curiosity to learn about things. Like,
अब मैं आपको बताता हूँ truthfully, because you are excellent, so we are not discussing about your interview.
no, sir,
Yeah.
yes.
So you are excellent, so no nothing to advise you. First of all, right? You will be doing very well, and you will be one of the selected candidates in IAS. Take it from me in writing, right? I have taken so many interviews in UPSC, but I was just worrying that why should you waste it? Because now the IAS is not that IAS. It's not. I'm telling you, you can do wonders in your area because of your. I have seen your record here. Do MS and PhD and do something great in this world.
No, sir.
Bacha, you are really very good.
Thank you, sir. But no, sir, I have taken this decision after a lot of
Thought process.
Yes, sir. And I believe that I'll be able to, like, a job or any career option is not only one where you can sit for 9 to 10 hours a day and do something and fetch money. But
Good, sir. We will see her
Okay, and
sometimes.
yeah, certainly. Acha, do you have any question from your side?
sir, any feedback or any
No, we don't have any feedback. The feedback is that you will do very well.
Thank you, sir.
Your way of
Continue doing
continue
well.
doing it, and continue reading newspapers. That's all which is
And
required from
budget.
you. Budget. Of course, you have to study in depth.
Okay. Sir,
Yeah.
any other thing like do I speak fast or any?
No.
No, it's perfectly.
Perfect.
Good.
It was perfect.
Okay,
It was
and-
perfect, and
And very balanced and very straightforward
and
answers.
the greatest thing about you is not something which I don't speak generally about someone, but about you I can tell you that you were using your heart also in the answers.
Yeah,
So that
you
was
are
very
committed
great.
to those things.
Very great.
Okay.
So continue this thing. Don't get misguided by anyone else.
Okay.
Someone may suggest do this. You don't have to do anything extra, except for continue reading the newspapers. Do the budget well, nothing else. Don't be misguided by anyone. That's only advice.
And dress-wise, sari would help.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I thought about it. I
Ah,
didn't
Bengali
get the time
sarees are
to
very good. So
Yes.
you can always wear that. But this dress is also okay. Nowadays
yeah,
girls
it's
dress,
okay.
It is
but that
also
is
very good.
it's
better.
very good dress.
Okay.
All the best.
Thank you.